8:46 a.m., September 11, 2001, a plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. 17 minutes later, a second plane struck the South Tower, live on television, between the 77th and 85th floors, causing a massive fireball. 34 minutes after that, a third plane crashed into the Pentagon somehow, breaching the world's most protected airspace to strike the hub of our nation's military. 5 minutes after that, the FAA finally grounds all flights, a full 39 minutes after it's been clear that America is under attack and planes are the weapon. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center complex collapses to dust neatly into its own footprint, and 29 minutes later, the North Tower does the exact same thing, collapses to dust in exactly the same way. Meanwhile, the fourth hijacked plane, United Flight 93, crashes in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, disappearing completely into the ground without a trace at 10:03 a.m. And it is not until after noon that the U.S. airspace is finally shut down completely. At 5:20 p.m., a third skyscraper, World Trade Center Building Number 7, collapses to dust into its own footprint at free fall speed, having not been struck by any plane and being a full football field away from the towers. And by that evening, the news was already blaming Osama bin Laden. And within 3 weeks, we were at war with Afghanistan, and a little over a month later, the Patriot Act was forced through in the name of protection and national defense, when really it was one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation ever against our freedoms and way of life to be passed. This whole event was a lie. It was pre-planned, and so was the reaction to it. And we have remained in a constant state of war in the Middle East since that day. We are still in Afghanistan. The first soldiers deployed to Afghanistan now have sons and daughters walking their same patrol routes. And this will never stop until the truth is exposed, and the truth of 9/11 is an obvious one hidden in plain sight that could unravel the entire power structure lording over us all. They tell us that 19 terrorists led by Osama bin Laden pulled all of this off, then in the same breath tell you not to listen to conspiracy theories? Well, let me ask you this. What is it when 20 people conspire to do something? Stop letting that trap keep you from thinking. They count on your shame to keep you from thinking, from pulling back the curtain, because once you see it, you can never unsee it. And that happened for me at 8:46 a.m., September 11th, 2001. At first, I believed the official story. And why wouldn't I? Ever since I was little, I learned about how great and honorable our country was, and I had no reason to question that what I was told wasn't true. So I was glued to CNN and NPR, constantly following any and all news that I could get a hold of about these attacks. I even had a huge tote filled with newspapers and videos that I collected covering the event. I was obsessed. I was obsessed because something was off. And even then I knew it, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was yet. It was right there in front of me, but it was blurry and unformed. Something about this wasn't right, and that feeling wouldn't leave me, so I kept digging deeper and found a detail the newspapers and videos weren't really covering, and I didn't even know of, even with all of the attention that I had given it. I saw footage of Building 7 collapsing, and something clicked in my head. I knew it all along in hindsight, but it was watching that tower fall in the exact same way as the first two, without the fantastical jet fuel impact fire damage tale to explain it away. It was a smoking gun that I couldn't ignore, and it was only the first one that I found. The Building 7 rabbit hole led me to many others. Another big smoking gun is the story of Willie Rodriguez. Willie was a janitor in the World Trade Center on 9/11. Willie tells a very different tale of what went on that day. See, Willie was a key holder in the World Trade Center and was trying to make sure that all of the doors and access out of the building was open and unlocked for everyone in the towers, and was the last person to leave. He even received a medal from President George W. Bush for his heroism on that day. What he did saved countless amounts of lives. He was treated as a hero till he started telling his story. See, Willie talked of multiple explosions. He talked of explosions before impact of the plane even. Explosions from below. To this day, Willie tries to spread this story. He tells anyone that will listen and goes around the country letting people know that there were multiple explosions in those towers. Something else that never sat right with me about 9/11 was the Pentagon strike. So I looked deeper into that. It turned out there was actually a little bit of accurate coverage of the Pentagon strike, but it only ever aired once. This early footage shows that the roof hadn't fallen yet, and the only damage was a hole about 14 feet wide. No damage from the wings. No evidence of a plane at all on the lawn was what the first reporters on the scene said. But until I had started digging, I was getting all my info from the mainstream news. Magazines, radio, mainstream documentaries, and all of this all supported and reinforced the official narrative, never even deviating much from each other, almost as if they were all reading from the same script. And it took me a while to realize that they were. The information was all right there all along, and the more I dug, the more I found, and it wasn't even hard to find. It's all right there in plain sight, and in my journey for truth, I have found that it always is. They hide nothing, and they mock us from the shadows. I know for a fact that 9/11 at the very least was allowed to happen, and that the 3 buildings that fell were all controlled demolitions. That means it was pre-planned, and negligence is not even an option here. I believe they orchestrated it all. But this was not our military dropping the ball over and over for hours while we were under attack. This was a plan, and it is provable beyond a shadow of a doubt. And this is not a theory. It is a fact. The official story of 9/11 holds water as good as a spaghetti strainer, and it's sloppy as well. It's a slap in the face to the victims and to the American people. A real, independent investigation must be allowed to take place with the funding and access needed to get the real answers. And I don't care where that truth leads. And trust me, it leads to the highest levels of our government and intelligence communities. But I truly believe that if it can be destroyed by the truth, it should be. We must demand an investigation. Demand the truth. Demand to know how the laws of physics can cease to exist. Demand to know who Tim Osmond is. Demand footage of a plane hitting the Pentagon. Don't ask for it. Demand it. These people depend on our silence, so make as much noise as you can about this and any lie that is holding society back. My eyes were opened at 8:46 a.m. 9/11/2001. Before that, I was like everyone else, so remember that in our pursuit for truth. These people who are sleeping don't even know that they are living a lie. I didn't, and if you're honest with yourself, neither did you. So be the thing that wakes them. And be patient in doing it as well. Think about all that we now know. Our eyes are open and we no longer are deceived, but we are now responsible for protecting the truth. And this is a golden key. 9/11 is an obvious, flimsy lie with an official explanation that doesn't even bother to explain its own fantastical claims. And it is already literally a conspiracy theory itself, so fuck everyone that wants to shoot sound logic down with the excuse of conspiracy. That is a well-laid trap and a device that they have used since they killed JFK to silence dissent. Osama bin Laden didn't orchestrate 9/11. Those 19 terrorists were patsies. Some actually even worked for our own intelligence agencies, and the others are still alive to this day. unskilled amateur pilots did not pull off those maneuvers, successfully flying at speeds over 500 miles per hour at low altitude, hitting small targets with a 75% success rate in the world's most protected airspace. And steel frame buildings have never before and haven't since collapsed due to fire damage. The only 3 to ever pull that trick all fell on the same day in a 7-hour time span. It's bullshit. Complete and total bullshit. Wall to wall, too. The entire timeline of events is a lie. The military response and explanation for lack thereof is also a massive lie. The generals and commanders who supposedly messed up in a massively spectacular fashion were all promoted and rewarded for a job well done. They didn't fail. They fumbled on purpose. Even Larry Silverstein said in a PBS documentary that he made the call to pull Building 7, which is a demolition term, because there had already been such a large loss of life in the day. So they decided to bring it down. And I could go on, but you see my point now, I'm sure. This was a false flag attack, and everything since has been based on a lie. And the only way to fight back against a lie, especially a lie as massive as the deceit that runs this world, is with the truth. And the truth about what actually took place on 9/11. Even though you may not know every detail of what actually was what took the towers down, what really did take place, and who was actually responsible, you can put a lot of it together. You can put enough of it together to clearly lay out that the official explanation is complete and utter bullshit and an impossibility and defies the laws of physics even. It makes no sense. It is a disgrace, was underfunded, and a mockery from start to finish. The victims and the American people deserve a real investigation into the events of 9/11, and a real investigation would expose the deep corruption that is rampant in our government and our society. Thanks for watching this video, and please like and share it out. Also remember to subscribe and click the bell before you leave to follow our future content. We'll see you next time right here from The Sean Yankee Show.